Major support for these broadcasts is provided by New York Community Bank, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chelsea Lighting, Capital One Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns, Giantomasi and Webster, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, the Wickoff Group, Greenberg Traurig, LLP, M&T Bank. Additional support is provided by Ackman Ziff Real Estate Group, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Briarwood Organization, Bruce Mosler, C.B. Richard Ellis, Colliers International New York, LLC, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, DDG Partners, Friedman LLP, Accountants and Advisors, Flushing Bank, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Centurion Holdings, John Katsimatidis, Red Apple Group, Madison Realty Capital, Margolin Weiner and Evans, LLP, Certified Public Accountants and Business Advisors, Massey Knackle Realty Services, New Banks, Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Knight Frank, Sterling and Sterling, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, and These Friends.
You know, there are actors and then there are actors. There are people who you see in the street, you know they are world-renowned famous actors. I normally am not fortunate to have too many actors. I try to be an actor. But I really today am lucky to have Richard Kind. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Am I an actor or am I an actor?
You're an actor.
Okay.
You're an actor. So let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about going back to the generation. So at least when your kids see this, they'll know about the grandparents. Tell me about your grandparents and then your parents.
My dad's parents lived in Trenton, New Jersey. Had a great jewelry store.
Reed's.
Reed's Jewelry. It was famous in Trenton. In fact, at Ewing Bowling Lanes, there is still a clock above it, like a fluorescent clock that says Reed's Jewelers. So they were big and very wealthy. My dad was taken to school in a limousine, he and his brother, so they were wealthy at the time. And then my mom's parents, they lived in Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue and then moved into the city.
Now, they were in the apparel business?
In what? Apparel? No. Her grandfather, my great-grandfather, was in the apparel business in Cincinnati, Ohio. Wealthy there. Where did the money go?
So where
did the money go?
Where did it come from?
Why am I eating
where did the money come from
straw and
originally?
chopsticks?
I mean, wait, the Kind, you know, they were the German Jews. You know,
well, the German Jews was was Kinder, that was my dad's, and then on the other side was my mom was Burson or Bayless, which is you know Joan Hamburg?
Sure.
Joan Hamburg is a cousin. She's my cousin. If you lined up all the cousins that Joan Hamburg has, you'll go back to the old country, and that's where Joan Hamburg is in that line. But nevertheless, she calls me. If you ever listen to her, she'll talk about Cousin Richard.
Now wait, don't you have another cousin who sings? I know you sing.
No, I don't. I do not.
They say that Barbra.
They do. That's because you listen to the internet.
No, that's right.
That's because you type in and you believe them. It is not true. There you go. Such a learned man as you.
Yeah.
Rosalind Kind and Barbra Streisand are not related. I'm sure that they are somewhere.
Right.
Maybe like Joan Hamburg.
You know, it's one of the 12 tribes.
Yes, but the thing is, Barbra Streisand notoriously did not like her stepfather, a last name of Kind. So I try to say no. So when I meet Barbra Streisand, she won't hit me.
Okay, so let's talk about how did Mom and Dad meet? He was a guy from Trenton.
Yes, my Aunt Mary, my cousin Miriam, his cousin, his first cousin. How she knew my mom, I don't know, but they introduced him. And my dad was going off to war and was dating her. And then when he came back, I think he was 25, and asked my mom, got out of the Army and asked my mom to marry him. And I think it was all on his birthday.
Now, what's interesting is Trenton was changing in population and everything, and Reed
Certainly in the 60s.
In the 60s. But when your father came back from the Korean War, he decided to move Reed's and change it really to open up LaVake.
Right. In fact, the corporation was Reed's Incorporated, but there was a store that had been there since 1856, opened by Myron LaVake, L-A-V-A-K-E. And my dad, not because Trenton was changing, he had no idea. I don't think he had that foresight. All he wanted to do was disassociate himself with his parents and open his own store. So he went to Princeton. And my dad's store was the premier jeweler in that area.
Right, and as you and I were saying, since I once had a business in Princeton, I had an office on Nassau Street. It was a small store first.
It was about the size of this chair.
Right, and then it grew.
He lived next door, which was my favorite thing as a kid, to Mrs. Ma's candy store. So we wanted to go to the store all the time because next door we'd get candy from Mrs. Ma's. Then he bought Mrs. Ma's candy store, so it became the size of the chair and this end table. And then next to that was Renwick's Diner. And Renwick's, a diner is huge. And he bought that, so he knocked that. So now it's 3 stores, and it was an enormous. Jewelry stores are not enormous because jewelry is small, and you don't need that much space.
We're going to talk a little bit about your jewelry career. I mean, you were such a great. You were able to package, right? You know how to do a ribbon.
Well, yeah, right. I started out. I can gift wrap like that. I am a very fast gift wrapper.
With ribbon or without?
The ribbons were already made. I could also. We had a bow machine.
Okay.
I'd sit downstairs as a 10-year-old kid. Well, by 13, I was using it another way, but nevertheless, I was making bows downstairs and worked in the shipping department downstairs, and then I went upstairs wrapping. I mean, I can take off a piece of paper to know exactly the size box. I know the size of paper. I'm very good at it.
So look, if there's not enough work over here, you can always find a job. Tiffany can always use you.
Well, no, okay. Here's the thing. I would work in the repair department, taking in orders and everything, or I would sell. I couldn't sell the emeralds and the diamonds, so I'd be back with sterling silver jewelry, which is not so expensive, or the men's accessories, cufflinks, things like that. And there was one time a lady comes in, and I'm back there, and she's looking at lighters, Dunhill lighters, very fine lighters. And I go back, and all I'm doing is I'm taking it out. Oh, it's pretty. Look, it's ribbed, and it looks very nice. And it's very. Or how about this one? It's plain. It's polished. So she picks the one Dunhill lighter, and I start writing down $25. And she goes, I don't believe that that's $25. And I go, yes, it is $25. She goes, no, I believe that says $250. And I go, $250 for a lighter? I mean, I was in shock. And this is 20, 30 years ago.
Now, you also tell me once with the earrings in the repairs?
Look, I didn't want to be a jeweler. I didn't want to be in sales, although I was good at it. A lady comes in with a set of earrings, dome-shaped earrings, and one of them is dented a lot. And she came in and she said, my dog got a hold of this. Do you think you can match it? And I go, no, but if you bring the dog in, we'll put some peanut butter on the earring and feed him the other one. See, they loved that. And in Princeton, you remember we now have the swipers. When you swipe a credit card and you get the authorization, we used to have to call in, and you get the little code, and then you would write that down.
Right, approved or
approved, the approval code. So I'd always, it's horrible. I would call in, and I'd get the code, and I'd go, you've been declined. And ladies in Princeton did not like that. They did not like to have their money joked about. So,
But
although I will say this, here's what my dad was. My dad could sell ice to the Eskimos. I would try and sell pearl necklaces. I'd be there for 45 minutes saying, oh, well, look at this, you see in the glow. And my dad would just walk by and he'd go, Herb, what are you buying? You buying a gift for Maggie? And he goes, yeah. And I could go, he'd look and he'd go, here, take this. Richie, wrap it up. And those were the pearls.
hey, that's why you had to figure out another career later
Believe
on.
me, but my dad was so good. And his competition was actually, believe it or not, Tiffany and Cartier. Because they all have the same, if you're a fine jeweler, you all have the same suppliers. North American Watch, whoever, Kremens, they're all the same. You're going to get the fine quality. Yeah, you'll go to the same diamond sellers, whatever. So Princeton is a very educated community, very wealthy. So either they went to New York and did their shopping,
Or they went locally.
Or they went locally, and my dad was the guy.
So growing up, when did you decide that you didn't want to be a jeweler, and you wanted that you had this theatrical?
It wasn't.
I mean, you could have, you do sing. You could have been a cantor, over there.
Let me tell you something. There was a story about at my bar mitzvah. I'm doing the bar mitzvah, and I'm pretty good because I sing. I don't sing well. You call me a singer, and I do sing, but I talk well. I did the portion, everything. I was loud, everything like that. And supposedly the rabbi's wife told us this. There are two ladies sitting there, and the rabbi's wife is sitting behind them. And one of them goes, he's so beautiful. He sings so well. He should be a rabbi. And the other one goes, God forbid. Like that. So, and the rabbi's wife told us that story. I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to be an actor. Always, always. But kids want to be baseball players. Kids want to be astronauts. They all do. I was stupid enough to believe that I really wanted to be an actor. And I really enjoyed it. I don't even know whether I really wanted to do it.
But part of it.
Hold on. Wait. As a matter of fact, the best line from my favorite year is Peter O'Toole, who said, I'm not an actor, I'm a movie star. I think all my life I wanted to be a movie star. After being an actor for 10 years, I realized I wanted to be an actor. But when I was young, I wanted to be a movie star.
Now, you said to me, your mother would put you on the train. You were living in Ewing over here.
In Yardley.
Yardley,
in Pennsylvania.
Yardley, Pennsylvania. Put you on the train, and you'd come to the city, and you'd go to the theater. Tell me about that.
Well, my grandparents, when they lived on East 69th, they would take us to everything. I was a very cultured kid. And my grandfather would take us all around the city. We'd walk. I mean, he was such a fast walker. And my sister and I, we would, you go out, you call it a walk. We called it a marathon. But they would always take me to the theater. I mean, that they exposed me to Leonard Bernstein and the young people's concerts. I went to museums. I went to all sorts of stuff and went to Broadway. I wanted to be a Broadway actor, and I'll always remember my grandfather saying, we went to a matinee once, and there was an understudy, and my grandfather going, this is Broadway. They have an understudy. It's going to be fantastic. I now know they might be good. Sure, they might be Shirley MacLaine plucked out of the understudy part and put in pictures, but I knew what the business was, what Broadway was, and how glamorous Broadway was from an early age. My mom would drop me off at Trenton's train station at around 10, 11 in the morning. About an hour and 5-minute trip, still is, into the city at 34th Street, walk up to, back then I think it was at 44th, or maybe it was at 46th.
It was on the corner of 44th, probably.
44th.
It used to be Tough and Eddie's before my time.
Right, what,
okay?
the TKTS?
No, not TKTS. I was talking about Nathan's.
Oh, no. What I would do is I would go and buy a ticket. Then I would go to Nathan's and have 2 hot dogs. I would come out. Actually, no. I would always get the ticket, go to the show. Then I would go to Nathan's, have 2 hot dogs, go to Sam Goody, look at all the albums, go to the drama bookstore, look at the books, and then I'd buy a ticket half price for the evening. And then
so you made a double hit.
It was a double header.
So you had the lunch, you had the matinee, and the evening.
And the evening show. And then I would get, and that's over. Well, plays used to begin at 8:30. So I'd get home around 12, 12:30, and my mom would pick me up. And I do remember seeing Cliff Gorman in Lenny in the afternoon and loved it so much. I had no idea who Lenny Bruce was. And then, but the performance was unbelievable, if you remember Cliff Gorman. And he won a Tony for it. And then I loved it so much, I went back and saw it again that night. I also saw, I think it was Valerie Perrine, who did it in the movie, was naked on stage. So as a kid, that was pretty good
double.
too. It was a quadruple. And then I remember getting in the car, my dad picked me up, and I said, this is unbelievable when I think back on it. Was Lenny Bruce a real person, or was he made up? I didn't know. I mean, I see this whole biography, so I was about 14 at the time. So
now, growing up, where'd you go to public school?
I went to, in Trenton, I went to Junior 3. Then we moved to Yardley in 4th grade, and I went to the Pennsbury school system. And then I was supposed to be going to Lawrenceville, you know, or I was accepted to Lawrenceville. I went in for the interview, and I said, I really don't want to go here. And they told my parents. But my dad being in Princeton PDS, Princeton Day School, but I liked Yardley.
Now, so you graduate high school, and when you and I got together, you had some opportunities because the Bayless's side, they were Dartmouth, right?
They were Dartmouth. Both my uncle and his nephew, my uncle, my mom's brother, both went to Dartmouth.
So they were there, and your father had ideas that maybe you should have gone to, he would have liked you to go to Princeton, right? Mm-hmm. And then, but you really, you knew that you wanted to be in the theater. You wanted to be in acting.
That's not exactly true. When you're
then you lied to me when we got together.
Not?
I'm sorry.
So I could give a little conflict to this interview.
Okay.
I was raised a certain way. I was raised that teachers and police and doctors knew all the answers, and I was raised that I was going to have 2.5 children and have a nice business.
It was like the book. It was like the game. The game
it
of
was.
life. The game of life.
It was all set out for it. Yes, exactly. And I went to Northwestern, not as a theater major, but pre-law. I always knew I was going to college. To even think that I wasn't going to college.
Shanda.
It was unbelievable. I knew a friend of mine went for 2 years to become a dental hygienist. I go, what do you do at 20 and 21? I couldn't understand it. It's just where I was going to go. The thought of not going to college, myself dropping out.
But you also said there was the concern. You wanted that type of school. You wanted the Northwest.
But I did, because extracurricularly I was in all the plays. I did so many plays. I did more plays than most theater majors. And I was supposed to go to law school, and I applied to law school. I got in, and that May, I'm home, and my dad's best friend, our neighbor from Trenton, and then was also our neighbor here in Yardley, said, when you're 40, you're going to kick yourself. You got to go to New York. You got to try theater. You got to try acting, or else you'll kick yourself.
Now, had you done the trip? Your parents had sent you on the trip to Europe before this?
No. I graduated. I said I will defer. I graduated from college. I was like I said, pre-law, which was, just pick anything. I was history and Russian lit were my 2 minors. And so I always wanted to go to Russia. So I went on a camping trip called Kontiki Tours. You bring up Kontiki Tours to any Australian and they'll laugh. And I bring it up to Australians all the time and they just laugh. But it was the greatest. So for a month and a half, we go truly make an oval around Europe. Except for Italy, we visited every country, Italy and Spain and Portugal, forgotten. I come home. My parents have a business trip in Washington that they're going to be treated to all sorts of cocktail parties at the Smithsonian, visit the White House, all through a jeweler in that town named Charles Schwartz, who had arranged and socially knew everybody in town. And then all of a sudden, it's the end of September, and the rug's been pulled out. I've declared I want to be an actor. I got my pictures, my resume. My dad has paid my first and last month rent.
Right, that's on the west side, right?
Yes. I never went to the east side because the east side is my grandparents.
Okay, but on the west side it was on the 20s. It was Chelsea, right?
Yes, Chelsea back before it was Chelsea. It was you know, it was bad. The night I moved in
Sid Vicious, right?
was the night that Sid Vicious killed Nancy Spungen at the Chelsea Hotel. I was a block and a half away. Okay? I heard the sirens, everything like that. This is my intro to. There were no art galleries in Chelsea. It's why I lived there. Then a 4-story walk up, 321 West 21st Street, across from the school. Harry Hibbert was my my roommate. Where Harry Hibbert is today, I've been very lucky because I call with this. I call myself the Smuckers of acting. With this face, I better be good. So Harry Hibbert was this handsome beach boy, you know, sandy blonde hair.
How'd the two of you find this room? What?
Equity used to have a board with no. It was either Equity or Showbiz Magazine, and
Roommate wanted.
And I saw Harry Hibbert, and I actually wanted to be Harry Hibbert. I didn't want to be his roommate. I wanted to be Harry.
So now you're 22 years of age. You want to be an actor. You have your headshots. You have your CV. What do you do? What happens? What's the first thing?
Okay, you have your. I had my picture, my resume, everything like that, and you buy Showbiz Magazine. You look through and see the auditions. So there was what's called EPI, Equity Principal. EPA's Equity Principal Audition, as opposed to EPI, Equity Principal Interview. It was an EPA for a show named Carmelina. This was my first audition in New York. It's October. There's a show called Carmelina, based on an old movie called Buona Sera, Mrs. Campbell, with Phil Silvers and Gina Lollobrigida and Peter Lawford.
I remember that movie.
Telly Savalas. It's a very funny movie. Takes place in Italy. It's about 4 war veterans, World War II veterans, coming back to a reunion in Italy. So I go to the audition at 9 in the morning, and they say it's equity only. What? Equity only. You have to be a member of the union. Well, how do you become a member of the union? You have to be in a Broadway play. Well, how do you be in a Broadway play? You got to be a member of the union. So it truly was the most horrible catch-22. Of all the catch-22s, it's like, how do you get in the door? So they said, but we're having non-equity auditions at 5. So I get back there at 3. So the guy, the monitor, really knows I am serious about being an actor. So I wait around for 2 hours, and then they call us in. And we're all lined up, and since it takes place in Italy, anybody with dark hair is considered. So
lucky you weren't a blonde.
Thank God I wasn't Harry Hibbert. That's for sure. So the director of the show is José Ferrer. And so kids are going up, you know, and they, because usually they call you in one at a time. This was, you know, just not
open call.
Well, it was. They kept us all in a room. So you come up and it gives the music to the piano player. I didn't have music. I've never been to an audition before. I had no idea. So it's my turn. I come up and I go. He goes, I have no music. I go. Well, the song I used to sing for auditioning in college was "Hey There." Do you know that? And from over in the corner, José Ferrer, with this voice, he goes, "Hey there, well, my ex-wife had a hit with that song." And he gets up and he comes over and he pushes the piano player aside and he sits down and he starts playing the piano. And he said, "Hey there, you with the stars in your eyes." And I'm singing, and he joins in, and we sang the whole song as a duet.
Yeah, but unfortunately you didn't get the job, right?
I did not get the job, thank goodness. The show closed early. But in any case, I later became best friends with his nephew, George Clooney, and his son is a dear friend, Miguel.
So let's continue on this career. So since you didn't make that, what happened next?
Auditions, waiting tables. You remember the
saloon? No. That's right. Now, part of the life of an actor is to work in restaurants, right?
Right.
So the saloon was the second place, right? Didn't you work one day?
Oh, okay. There was a restaurant called The Saloon that I worked at, which was, it never was successful as a creperie. It was all sorts of restaurants across from Lincoln Center. It's now Bed Bath & Beyond. But
if you had good roller skates, it was very good.
See, now, okay, I'll get to that. I'll tell you the other two stories. But I was a waiter there, and they would always say, "Why aren't you on roller skates?" And I'd say, "Because I prefer to keep the food on your plate and not in your lap." I couldn't roller skate. But I was a waiter at Russian Tea Room. And I was in there one day, and it was one day, I was trailing, everything like that, and Peter Benchley, who wrote Jaws.
Who was from Princeton.
He was from Princeton, and he used to play tennis with my dad. So I'm following around, and I look, and I see Peter Benchley's leaving, and I excuse myself, and I go up, and I go, "Excuse me, Mr. Benchley, I just want to tell you, I'm Richard Kind, I'm Sam Kind's son." "Oh, what are you doing here?" "I just got out of school, I'm a waiter, you know, actor, blah, 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 blah." And he goes, "Oh, good to see you," and he went on his way. And this martinet of a woman, not Russian, by the way, she was German. But who were you talking to?
Luftwaffe.
Luftwaffe, yes. Zeppelin, actually. She came up and she said, you don't talk to the customers. And I said, no, she's a family friend. "I don't care, you don't talk to the customers." "But no, I know, you do not." So I said, "Then I don't wait at the Russian tea room." Some sense of dignity.
You told me the saloon, you were able, sometimes you had the 3 shifts in the day to make the money.
I was a
Those
very
were-
hard worker. I was really, I wanted to amass a lot of money all at once so that would support my acting, which I did for free. In fact, producers sort of know that actors will work for free. All actors want to do is act. They're really worth their salt. They just want to
Now,
act.
part of since you needed to,
And then complain that they're not getting paid.
now, since you weren't getting paid, and you had the part-time, you were also helping out LaVake by being the New York City runner, we'll call you.
Well, here I am going for about 4 years in the city without an equity card. And I did summer stock. I did summer
Which
stock.
you told me was the hardest thing you ever did in your
But
life.
it was the best thing. That was out in Beach Haven, New Jersey. We did 14 shows in 15 weeks. So we would rehearse during the day and perform at night. We'd have one day off, Sunday day, but we'd have no nights off. I worked every night. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we did the kids' show. It was the toughest thing in the world. But after I finished it, I said, I'm never doing this again. We made, I think, $27 a week or $47 a week, plus room and board. So I finished then, and I say, I'm going to get my equity card this year. There's not a prayer that I'm going through my career or I'm going to go through another year without my equity card. So it's Christmas time, and there was an audition to play Blackfish the Indian in Daniel Boone at what was then Performing Arts Repertory Theater. It's now called Theater Works USA. The best children's theater in the country. Equity, everything, very fine. Very well organized, great grants, everything like that. They're having non-equity auditions on, I think, the 23rd of December. My job for my dad was to go around the jewelry district, pick up all the repairs and the sizings or the things that have been ordered, and bring them all in so that they can be there for the 24th. So I'm going all around, and then I go to Performing Arts Repertory Theater, which is on the 2nd floor, great space, everything like that, near the Diamond Center. I've got $250,000 worth of jewelry in my briefcase.
And we're going to have to continue that for next week, so you can tell.
Have I talked that long?
No.
No wonder I'm coughing.
What do you of course, but next
I
week.
feel like I'm a guest on Dick Cavett,
No.
like the special guest.
We have each different personalities. Okay, so we'll continue next week, and you'll tell us about the jewelry,
Okay.
the equity.
They're going to have to tune in next week.
You're damn right.
Oh, my God, you'll miss it.
We'll see you next week.